Foreign ministers of some of the world's most powerful nations gathered in India's capital for the BRICS Foreign Ministers Meeting on the 14th of May. Now, Brazil, Russia, India, China are represented by its ambassador. South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia and Iran, and of course the UAE. The theme of the meeting officially was innovation, cooperation, resilience and sustainability. What actually happened was something else altogether. Now, Iran's foreign minister accused the United Arab Emirates of direct involvement in military operations against his country during the summit in New Delhi. Now, at a meeting designated for global cooperation. BRICS started as an economic acronym that evolved into a geopolitical project. The idea was simple but also ambitious. The world's major emerging economies coordinating together, pushing back against Western dominance of global institutions and amplifying the voice of the global South. Now, over the past 2 years, the bloc expanded dramatically. Iran joined, the UAE joined, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia. What was once a tight club of 5 became a sprawling coalition of nations with, in many cases, deeply opposing interests. Now, BRICS nations now collectively represent over 40% of global GDP and around half of the world's population. That's an enormous amount of weight if it moves together. The problem is, it's not moving together. Now, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrived in New Delhi with a mission. Iran was under sustained military attack from US and Israeli strikes that began on February 28th. Tehran's economy was buckling. Its currency was collapsing, and for the first time since the conflict started, Araghchi was at a major multilateral table with 9 other foreign ministers in the room. Now, he came to build a coalition to rally BRICS against what he called unlawful aggression, to make the case that the global South needed to stand together against Western military power. In his main speech, he was restrained and diplomatic. He urged BRICS to condemn what happened, to protect the UN Charter, to oppose the politicization of international institutions. He specifically chose not to name the UAE. But then the Emirati representative spoke and Araghchi responded. According to state media, he said, and I quote, "I don't name the UAE in my statement for the sake of unity, but the truth is the UAE was directly involved in the aggression against my country. When the attack started, they didn't even issue a condemnation. They provided bases, airspace, territory, intelligence, other facilities to United States and Israel," unquote. Now, the confrontation came down to New Delhi, and just to be clear, this confrontation didn't start in that conference hall. Now, since February 28th, Iran has been at war. US and Israeli strikes have hit Iranian territory. In retaliation, Iran blockaded the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supply flows. Iran also launched missile and drone attacks on Gulf states it accused of facilitating the military campaign, hitting military facilities and energy infrastructure in the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Now, the UAE intercepted more than 2,800 Iranian drones and missiles since February 28th. Now, from the UAE's perspective, it was not a facilitator of aggression, it was a target of it. Now, from Iran's perspective, the UAE's Abraham Accords relationship with Israel, the presence of American military bases on Emirati soil, and Abu Dhabi's silence at the start of the strikes made it complicit. Now, a day before the BRICS meeting in New Delhi, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had claimed he visited the UAE during the Iran war. The UAE denied it. Araghchi had already fired back, saying those colluding with Israel to sow division will be held to account. Now, by the time both foreign ministers were in the same room in New Delhi, the fuse was already lit. And for BRICS, the consequences were immediate. Iranian media reported that the bloc may not be able to issue a final joint communique, the unified closing statement that normally signals a functioning multilateral gathering. Iran's own deputy foreign minister acknowledged there were problems because of the UAE's presence. Now, this was the second BRICS meeting in a row. April's Deputy Ministers meeting had also ended without a joint statement for the exact same reason. And in the middle of all this sat India. Now, as the host and chair of this year's BRICS, India was in perhaps the most unenviable diplomatic position of any country in that room. Now, think about what India had to manage simultaneously. Iran, a fellow BRICS member, a country India has historically maintained ties with, a critical part of India's energy geography. And then there's the UAE, also a BRICS member, one of India's largest trading partners, home to millions of Indian workers and a key hub for Indian businesses across West Asia. And then there's Israel, a country India has been quietly building closer defense and technology ties with. And the United States, India's most important strategic partner, the country it has aligned with most visibly over the past decade. Now, no statement in India makes India, in fact, it satisfies all four. No silence, India avoids upsetting at least one. And in September, the full BRICS Leadership Summit happens in India under India's presidency. India is doing what India has done through most of this conflict, keeping every channel open, not burning any bridge, trying to be the room where everyone can sit and talk. Whether that works at a summit where two members are already publicly at war is another question.